Hi everybody, this is Damon Lewis, and welcome to the Astral World. This is the second episode I'm recording right now, and I'll start it off by saying that I, as always, a little something personal about me, I'm having difficulty with the name itself. I'm always wanting to pick the perfect name, or, when I look up online to find other people, which I maybe should have did before, I named the podcast The Astral World. There was another person that had already gotten the Astral World website. So I don't know. I'm thinking back and forth about that stuff, and it's an impediment to me doing this podcast. It's been a while since I did my first podcast, and now I'm doing the second one. I don't know. So maybe when this podcast reaches an audience, reaches people who want to actually listen to it, you let me know. You let me know what your thoughts are. Or maybe I'll go talk to somebody who's kind of an expert on that kind of thing, like social media. But anyway, going forward, I'll stick with the name for right now. And if it changes down the road, you'll know my thought process. You'll know why it changed, or if the continuity changes, I apologize. If it's something you enjoyed, and I change it. So this morning, just a little while ago, I astral projected out of my body. So I'll start with that. I'll start with that experience, my personal experience, and maybe then give you some background and talk about what my thoughts are, because this podcast is aimed at people who are also learning and wanting to build themselves up, beginners and intermediate people who maybe have some knowledge, and maybe a little bit for experts too. I would like it if experts, eventually when this reaches more people, if experts chimed in a little bit and gave some messages, and I'd also like to interview some experts, people who've done it for a while, so we can help each other and help each other learn. So this morning experience was a half waking state, half waking, half sleeping, where I was lying down on my stomach and I could feel my body, but I could also feel a little bit of the vibrational state, which a lot of books talk about. So it's basically, for people who have never heard of it, it's a higher energy state where your body is sort of resonating and vibrating at a higher energy rate. But there's many books that go into it better in better detail than I am going into it right now, that you can easily check out at your local library or online. So I felt the vibrational state, and I also felt my body, and I consciously tried to, or not tried, but I gave a little effort to moving my arm, my astral arm, my energy arm, outside my body. And it's if you've never done it before, and if you're doing it for the first time, it can be a little challenging to separate the two feelings of your physical arm and your astral arm. You have to really not try. It's hard to explain that, but the harder you try, the harder it will be. You have to just trust in the fact that when you're moving your astral arm, that maybe this is, you're actually doing it, because you'll feel it in a tactile sense, in an actual physical sense. So I moved it out, and then I moved my arm out, and I moved the rest of my body out, and then I floated up above my body, looked down, and I snapped back in pretty quick. That's usually what a beginning astral projection will be. People will get out of their bodies and snap back in pretty quickly. And I was feeling myself still in this half-wake, half-sleep state, so I tried again. I did, and I was able to achieve it. I got out of my body and went over to the door of where I was sleeping, and I got outside and looked around at the people that were walking on the sidewalk and everything. And I was looking at them, waving at them, and then again I snapped back into my body. And now, upon waking up, what I realized was that I was projected, of course. That I was actually feeling that. I could tell by the feeling of it. The feeling I've had it before. I've had this. It's kind of like a buzzing feeling. And so I was out of my body, but I was also in a low state of lucidity, a low level of awareness, where in astral projection you can be aware of the actual world around you, the astral world in real time. You can be aware of that, but I was not. So I was actually projected into the dream world, and I had I had awareness that I was projecting, but I did not have awareness that I was also just in the dream world. I was thinking at the time that this was reality. So that's actually the good point of what I would like to talk about today on the podcast, the main subject. And if you want to hear more expanded versions of when I have successes and things like that, just let me know, send me emails, I'll go over that. But for now, I think that might be the best way I can explain it, because of my lack of experience. I don't have as much experience to fully explain and maybe go into the teacher mode, because I don't have that exact capability at this moment. So that was my experience, and let's talk about lucidity or awareness. So, from the many books that I've read, and from all my experiences, and from talking to other people, the level of lucidity that you have in your dreams, or in your projections, or even in daily life, they all have a commonality, and they all relate to each other. And I was thinking about it. I've been thinking about it since my last podcast, since the first one I did. And it's been something I've wanted to talk about with you guys, talk about with people who may be listening. I can sum it all up the way I would like to sum it up in a scientific way that has been proved in studies on quantum states, quantum mechanics, which I'm by no means an expert or anything like that, so I'm just going by some of the little bits of information that I do know. But I like using science because it can give people a foundation. If you don't have a foundation already, like if you, as a child, or if you're just new or becoming aware of astral projection or lucid dreaming, you might not have a foundation. I kind of do. I'm lucky. I do have a little bit of a foundation. I've had some experiences when I was a child, and as I was growing up. Nowhere near some other people, but definitely more than, I guess the majority of people. So, in this quantum experiment that I would like to use as an example, it's called the double slit experiment. So you can Google it and see it for yourself. In the experiment, they shoot photons, little tiny particles of light. They shoot photons at a film, I guess, that has two vertical slits, that has a measuring device that they could read where the photon goes. When they shoot the photon at this film, does it go in the slit on the right side or the slit on the left side? Right? They're measuring which direction it goes. And what they found through their measuring device is they found something that's amazing to our experience as conscious beings. They found that when they were observing and looking at these photons being shot, the photons would go in a random pattern through either the left slit or the right slit. So when they shoot it, it would go either left or right, like a 50-50 chance through left or right. Now, that's, to me, it relates to how we observe the world. The world that we see has a definite pattern to it, and it's a definite, objective reality that we all view and see together and experience. So the next thing they tried with this experiment is they tried somehow, I'm not quite sure I understand how, but they tried not viewing it. They still were able to measure it, but they didn't actually view the experiment. So there was no conscious viewer to view the experiment. And then they shot the photons like normal. Well, the photon did something very interesting. The photon went through the left and the right, but it also went through both. And it created this interesting pattern that was completely different from the other time they shot the photon when they were observing it. And what they found out was, if I'm saying it correctly, you can Google it and check my facts, that when they're observing the photon acts like a wave. And when they're not observing it, the photon acts like a particle. So, how this relates to lucid dreaming and astral projection is that whether we're in our conscious waking reality, the thing I like to call our shared reality, our objective reality, the thing we all share together, or we're in our dreaming time, which is our subjective reality, it's the thing that we have just for ourselves, we have that same paradox of observing and being aware and conscious, or not being aware and conscious, of not observing. And our realities, dreaming or awake, can act like a wave or a particle. So we could be in a dream and be conscious and lucid, and things can act like a wave, and we could actually make our dreams be the way that we want them to be. We can astral project, and we can see the objective world, the objective reality. It's possible. People have done it to look around and see what's going on in daily life. And when we're awake in reality and objective real time, we normally see things as a wave, but we can also see things as a particle, as a non-objective reality, as in there are people who are able, like psychics and mediums, to see things that everyday, that normal, regular people are not seeing. And I say normal as in just the majority of people, with ghosts or things like that, things that are abnormal to the rest of the majority of people. So I think how this relates is if we're trying to gain lucidity in our lives as well as in our dream world, we want to have lucid dreams, we want to have astral projection, and gain lucidity, which is maybe another word for enlightenment. We're trying to gain more light inside of ourselves and see things as they really are. It's the conscious observer, to me, that seems to be the key. The awareness. If you've ever driven home and not know how you got back home, right? You spaced out. You know how this works. You're not always conscious throughout the entire day of your waking world. Just as when you're dreaming, you're not always conscious of the fact that you're dreaming. The challenge is, and this is my goal, so I can tell you if the next, sorry about that, I apologize if somebody was just calling in. The next challenge I'm going to give myself, and I'll let you know if this works, is challenging my everyday lucidity and the conscious observer. So maybe you guys can try that too, and I would love to hear back when people start to listen to this podcast. I would love to hear back from you. So I appreciate for you listening, and I'll do longer podcasts when I have maybe some guests, or I have a little more specific teaching, materials to say from a book. I really hope you enjoyed me just telling you about my experience, and we'll learn this together. And I keep at it. You keep at it. You can teach me just as much as I would like to learn from you, and maybe we can learn from each other. So I'm Damon Lewis. This has been the Astral World, and all right, I'm gonna go do my thing today, and you do your thing. All right, bye.